Here's a genuine question for you. What if the most offensive show on television, the one famous for killing a kid every single episode, for featuring talking Christmas poop, for dropping more profanity than any program in broadcast history, what if that show has been quietly delivering some of the most brutally honest life lessons of the past 3 decades? And what if those lessons have been hiding right there in front of us, buried under layers of fart jokes and construction paper cutouts, waiting for someone to actually stop and listen? Since August 13th, 1997, South Park has been on the air. 28 seasons, 338 episodes. 4 foul-mouthed elementary school kids from a tiny mountain town in Colorado named Stan, Kyle, Cartman, and Kenny have spent nearly 30 years stumbling through alien abductions, celebrity feuds, global pandemics, and political chaos. And somehow, along the way, they have taught us more about integrity, friendship, identity, greed, and what it actually means to grow up than most shows that were specifically designed to do that. This is a show that won 5 Primetime Emmys and a Peabody Award. That Peabody citation describes South Park as offering distinguished and meritorious public service in the form of biting social commentary. An academic philosophy book was published analyzing the depth of its ideas. And yet, if you told someone you learned your most important life lessons from a cartoon where a kid eats another kid's parents in a bowl of chili, they would probably look at you like you had lost your mind. But that is exactly what we are going to do tonight. We're going to go through the episodes that contain some of the most powerful, uncomfortable, and surprisingly beautiful lessons South Park has ever delivered. And I promise you, by the time we are done, you are going to look at this show completely differently. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park, have a writing rule that they have talked about in interviews for years. Every beat in a story should be connected by the words but or therefore, never by and then. And then is lazy. But and therefore create conflict, surprise, consequence. That rule is baked into every single episode of the show, and honestly, it is a pretty solid rule for life too. Things do not just happen and then other things happen. Everything is connected by conflict and consequence. Keep that in mind as we go through these. And by the way, the show has been doing this with a production schedule that should be impossible. Each episode of South Park is written, animated, voiced, and completed in just 6 days. 6 days from blank page to broadcast. That schedule is part of the magic because it means the show can respond to current events almost in real time. An episode about a presidential debate can air less than a week after the debate happened. That speed, that urgency is baked into the DNA of the show. And it is part of why it feels so alive compared to other animated series that take months or years to produce a single episode. Oh, and one more thing. Almost every episode of South Park ends with one of the characters, usually Kyle, stepping forward and saying, "You know, I learned something today." It became such a signature move that even the show itself started making fun of it. But here's the thing, the lessons those characters deliver in those moments, they are almost always right. And tonight, we are going to find out why. If you are the kind of person who enjoys falling asleep to something that actually makes you think, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. You would be surprised how much that helps. All right, let us get into it. There is an episode from Season 2 called Gnomes. It first aired on December 16th, 1998. And on the surface, it is one of the silliest episodes the show ever produced. But underneath the absurdity is a lesson that applies to basically every ambitious plan you have ever heard in your life. The setup is this. The boys are assigned a current events paper at school, and they are struggling to come up with a topic. They end up partnering with Tweak, the perpetually anxious, coffee-addicted kid whose parents own a local coffee shop called Tweak Brothers. Tweak's family is in the middle of a battle with a massive corporate coffee chain called Harbucks that is opening a location in South Park, threatening to put them out of business. Now, the adults in town rally behind Tweak's parents. They are furious. Big corporations are evil. Small businesses are sacred. It becomes this whole movement. The boys get swept up in it, mostly because they do not really understand what is happening and just want a good grade on their paper. But here's where it gets weird. Tweak has been telling the boys that gnomes keep sneaking into his room at night and stealing his underpants. Nobody believes him. They all think he's just being Tweak, paranoid and over-caffeinated as usual. But one night, the boys stay over at Tweak's house, and sure enough, tiny gnomes show up and start stuffing underpants into sacks. The boys follow the gnomes underground to their lair, and they discover an enormous operation. Mountains of stolen underpants, a whole civilization built around underpants theft. So naturally, the boys ask the obvious question. Why? Why are you stealing underpants? And the gnomes proudly present their business plan. It has 3 phases. Phase 1, collect underpants. Phase 2, ? Phase 3, profit. That is the entire plan. Collect underpants, then something undefined happens, then profit. The gnomes have no idea what phase 2 is. They have never figured it out. They just know they're collecting underpants and they know they want to profit. And the middle part, the part that actually matters, is completely blank. Now, this is hilarious. It became one of the most referenced jokes in the entire series. To this day, people use the underpants gnomes business plan as shorthand for any strategy that skips the hard middle part. You have probably seen it memed 1,000 times. But here's what most people miss about that episode. The gnomes are not the only ones with a broken plan. The entire town, all those passionate adults protesting Harbucks, they have the exact same logical gap. Their plan is essentially phase 1, stop the big corporation. Phase 2, ? Phase 3, save the local economy. Nobody has actually thought through what happens in the middle. Nobody has analyzed whether Tweak Brothers actually makes better coffee, or whether Harbucks might create jobs, or whether the economics of the situation are more complicated than big company bad, small company good. The adults are screaming with absolute conviction about something they have not actually thought through. They are operating on emotion and assumption, not logic. And the gnomes, ridiculous as they are, at least had the honesty to put a question mark where they did not have an answer. The adults did not even do that much. The lesson here cuts deep if you let it. Most people, and I mean most, confidently argue positions they have never actually examined. We do it all the time. We hear a take that sounds right, it aligns with something we already feel, and we adopt it as gospel without ever stress testing the middle steps. We know what we believe and we know what outcome we want, but the logic connecting those two things? ? Think about how many plans in your own life have followed the underpants gnomes model. Phase 1, start a business. Phase 2, ? Phase 3, financial freedom. Phase 1, go to the gym. Phase 2, ? Phase 3, dream body. Phase 1, move to a new city. Phase 2, ? Phase 3, happiness. The hard part is always phase 2, it is always the middle. And South Park, through a bunch of tiny animated gnomes stealing underwear, managed to crystallize one of the most important lessons about critical thinking you will ever encounter. Do not confuse having a goal with having a plan. Do not confuse passion with preparation. And if your strategy has a giant question mark in the most important spot, maybe figure that out before you start screaming at everyone else about how right you are. Every time you hear someone lay out an argument that skips from problem to solution without explaining the bridge between them, you are looking at an underpants gnomes plan. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It is everywhere. All right, now we need to talk about what might be the single darkest lesson South Park ever delivered. And to tell this one properly, I need to walk you through the highest rated episode in the entire series. It is called Scott Tenorman Must Die. Season 5, Episode 4. It first aired on July 11, 2001. It holds a 9.6 out of 10 on IMDb. And if you have seen it, you already know exactly where this is going. The episode starts simply enough. Cartman, who is 9 years old, has been tricked by an older kid named Scott Tenorman. Scott is a ninth grader, which means he is maybe 14 or 15, and he sells Cartman his pubic hair for $16.12. Cartman, being Cartman, does not even know what pubic hair is. He just knows Scott told him it was a sign of maturity, and Cartman wanted to be first among his friends to have some. When Stan and Kyle explain what actually happened, Cartman is humiliated. Not just embarrassed, humiliated at a molecular level. This is Cartman we are talking about. His entire identity is built on being the one who outsmarts everyone else, and a ninth grader just played him for a fool. So Cartman goes to Scott and demands his money back. Scott refuses, and then he does something worse. He takes the $16, holds it up, and burns it right in front of Cartman's face. $16.12 gone. Cartman is apoplectic. What follows is an escalating war. Cartman tries scheme after scheme to get revenge or get his money back, and every single one fails. He tries to train a pony to bite off Scott's wiener. Scott finds out and humiliates Cartman again. He tries another plan. Scott outmaneuvers him again. Every attempt Cartman makes, Scott is one step ahead. And each time Cartman fails, Scott rubs it in harder. The humiliation keeps compounding. At one point, Scott tricks Cartman into a situation where he ends up on stage crying in front of the entire town, while Radiohead, Cartman's favorite band, watches and calls him uncool. Cartman hits absolute rock bottom. Everyone is laughing at him. Scott has won. And then the episode does something that changed the show forever. Cartman invites the entire town to a chili cook-off. He has been working on his chili recipe, he says. Scott shows up, smug, convinced he has broken Cartman completely. They exchange chili bowls. Scott eats Cartman's chili. And then Cartman starts talking. He explains in terrifying detail what actually happened. While everyone thought Cartman had given up, he had been working a completely different plan behind the scenes. He had figured out that Scott's parents would be trespassing on a local ranch. He had anonymously tipped off the rancher, who was known for shooting trespassers on sight. The rancher killed Scott's parents. Cartman then took their bodies, ground them up, and cooked them into the chili that Scott had just eaten. Scott Tenorman ate his own parents. The camera holds on Scott's face as the realization hits. He collapses, sobbing, begging, breaking apart in front of everyone. And Cartman, standing over him, licks the tears off Scott's cheek and says, "Your tears are so yummy and sweet. The tears of unfathomable sadness." Radiohead, who Cartman had also arranged to attend, sees Scott crying and calls him a crybaby. The final humiliation. The total destruction of another human being engineered by a 9-year-old. Now, here's what matters about this episode. South Park does not celebrate what Cartman did. That is the crucial thing people miss when they talk about this episode. The show is not saying revenge is cool or that Cartman is a hero. Watch Stan and Kyle's faces at the end. They are horrified, genuinely horrified. Kyle says something to the effect of, "I'm going to make sure I never make Cartman angry again." Not out of respect, out of pure fear. The show uses Cartman's revenge to illustrate something dark and real about human nature. When you let yourself become consumed by the desire to get even, there is no natural stopping point. Cartman did not just want his $16 back. He did not just want an apology. By the time his obsession had fully taken hold, nothing less than total annihilation would satisfy him. He crossed every moral line imaginable. He literally killed people and fed them to their own son. And the sickest part, he won. By every measurable standard, Cartman won. Scott is destroyed. Cartman got his revenge plus interest. But look at what victory required. Look at who Cartman had to become to get it. He became a monster. And not just metaphorically. He became someone capable of murder, cannibalism by proxy, and psychological torture of another child. And he did it all because he could not let go of $16 and a bruised ego. The lesson here is one that South Park delivers with a sledgehammer, and it is this: revenge does not make you whole. It makes you into someone who would cook a kid's parents into chili. The cost of getting even is always your own humanity. And most of the grudges we carry in real life, the ones that keep us up at night, the ones we fantasize about resolving through some perfectly orchestrated moment of payback, they are not worth the person we become while holding them. Stan and Kyle understood this instantly. They did not admire Cartman, they feared him, because they recognized that the person standing in front of them was no longer just an annoying fat kid. He was something else entirely. And he got there one grudge at a time. Think about that. The next time someone wrongs you and your first instinct is to plot your revenge, ask yourself what phase 2 of that plan actually looks like. And ask yourself if the person you will be at the end of it is someone you actually want to become. All right, so this next lesson comes from one of the most unexpected places in the entire South Park universe. We are going to talk about relationship advice, and the person delivering it is Satan, literal Satan, the Prince of Darkness. And somehow, he ends up giving one of the most emotionally mature speeches the show has ever produced. This plays out across 2 episodes in season 4, Do the Handicapped Go to Hell and the follow-up episode called Probably. They aired in the summer of 2000. The A-plot involves the kids in South Park freaking out about going to hell, but the B-plot, the one that matters for our purposes, takes place in hell itself. Satan has been in a long-term relationship with Saddam Hussein. Yes, that's Saddam Hussein. And the relationship is terrible. Saddam is manipulative, abusive, controlling, and openly disrespectful. He only cares about sex and power. He treats Satan like a doormat. And Satan, despite being the literal ruler of the underworld, just takes it. He makes excuses for Saddam. He keeps going back. He tells himself it will get better. Sound familiar? Because this is basically every toxic relationship you have ever witnessed or been stuck in. Then Satan meets Chris. Chris is the opposite of Saddam. He is gentle, thoughtful, emotionally available. He actually listens to Satan. He cares about how Satan feels. And for a while, Satan is torn between the two. The excitement and chaos of Saddam versus the stability and kindness of Chris. Satan goes back and forth. And the whole thing becomes this deeply relatable love triangle, which is insane when you remember that one of the participants is the devil and another is a dead Iraqi dictator. But that is the genius of South Park. It takes the most absurd setup imaginable and fills it with completely genuine emotion. Eventually, Satan reaches a breaking point. He is at a party in hell, surrounded by all these figures from history, and he realizes that he keeps making the same mistake over and over. He keeps defining himself through his relationships. He keeps looking for someone else to make him feel complete. And it's not working. It has never worked. Whether it is the toxic excitement of Saddam or the safe comfort of Chris, Satan keeps outsourcing his sense of self to another person. So he makes a decision that shocks everyone, including the audience. He chooses neither. He breaks up with both of them. He tells Chris and Saddam that he needs to be alone for a while, not because he does not care about either of them, but because he has never actually spent time figuring out who he is without someone else in the picture. Satan, the Lord of Hell, stands there and basically delivers a therapy-grade speech about the importance of self-discovery before commitment. He says he needs to learn to be happy with himself before he can be happy with anyone else. And the thing is, he is absolutely right. This is one of those lessons that sounds obvious when you hear it stated plainly, but almost nobody actually follows it. How many people do you know who jump from relationship to relationship without ever spending meaningful time alone? How many people define their entire identity through whoever they are dating? How many people stay in clearly toxic situations because being with someone bad feels less scary than being with no one at all? South Park nails it. Serial monogamy, the pattern of leaping from one relationship directly into the next, prevents you from ever doing the hard work of figuring out who you are on your own. And until you do that work, every relationship you enter is built on an incomplete foundation. You end up looking for someone to fill a gap that only you can fill. Satan's choice to be alone is not portrayed as sad or pathetic. It is portrayed as brave. It is the first genuinely healthy decision he makes in the entire series up to that point. And the fact that it comes from Satan, of all characters, is South Park's way of saying that this lesson applies to everyone. Even the worst, most powerful, most feared being in existence needs to figure out who they are before they can truly love somebody else. Sometimes being alone is not loneliness, it is preparation. And that distinction matters more than most people are willing to admit. The next episode we need to talk about is from season 11. It is called The List, and it deals with something that most of us experienced in one form or another growing up, even if we never talk about it. It deals with how we respond to being told we are not attractive enough. The premise is straightforward. The girls at South Park Elementary have ranked every boy in the school by physical attractiveness. They made a list. And when the boys find out, naturally, everyone wants to see where they landed. Clyde is ranked number 1. The other boys land in various spots. But Kyle is ranked dead last, below everyone. Below Cartman, which is a particular gut punch because Kyle and Cartman have one of the most intense rivalries in the entire show. And being ranked less attractive than your worst enemy hits different. Kyle spirals. He is devastated. He starts questioning everything about himself. He becomes withdrawn and angry. He considers burning down the school, which is an extreme reaction, but also exactly the kind of irrational response that being publicly ranked and humiliated can trigger, especially in a kid. While Kyle is in his darkest moment, he has a vision of Abraham Lincoln, and Lincoln tells him something that reframes the entire situation. Lincoln explains that when you're attractive, people hand you things. Life gets easier in superficial ways. But when you are not considered attractive by conventional standards, you are forced to develop actual substance. You have to be funnier, smarter, more creative, more resilient. You have to build real character because the world is not going to give you a free pass based on your face. Lincoln tells Kyle that some of the most interesting and accomplished people in history were not conventionally attractive, and that their lack of easy access to superficial rewards is exactly what drove them to develop depth. Now, here is where the episode gets clever. It turns out the list was rigged. A group of girls manipulated the rankings for their own reasons. Clyde was not actually the most attractive. The whole thing was a scheme. Kyle finds out the truth and has the opportunity to look at the corrected, legitimate version of the list. And he chooses not to look. That is the moment. Kyle had every reason to check. If the real list ranked him higher, it would validate him. It would undo the pain. But Kyle realizes that it does not matter where he falls on some list. The lesson Lincoln taught him already stuck. His value is not determined by where a group of kids ranked his face. His value comes from who he is and what he builds. Looking at the corrected list would mean he still cared about the ranking, and the whole point is that the ranking should not matter. This episode aired in 2007, and it has only become more relevant since then. We live in a culture that is more obsessed with appearance than at any point in human history. Social media turned every single person into a product that gets publicly rated through likes, followers, and comments. Dating apps reduced human beings to a photo that gets swiped left or right in less than a second. The pressure to be physically attractive has never been more intense or more constant. And South Park, through an 11-year-old boy choosing not to look at a list, delivers the antidote. The people who had to work hardest, the ones who could not coast on their looks, are often the ones with the most substance. The rigged list is a metaphor for how superficial and arbitrary most social hierarchies actually are. The rankings that make you feel worthless were probably never legitimate in the first place. And even if they were, they measure exactly one dimension of a person while ignoring everything that actually matters. Kyle walking away from that list is one of the most quietly powerful moments in the entire series. It is a kid choosing self-worth over external validation and doing it not because someone told him to, but because he genuinely understood why it mattered. If you're still watching or still listening, hit subscribe. I mean it. This channel is trying to do something a little different, and your subscription genuinely makes that possible. All right, let us keep going. This next one is about free speech, and it is one of those episodes where the line between the show and real life got so blurred that you could not tell where one ended and the other began. Season 10, Episodes 3 and 4, Cartoon Wars Part 1 and Part 2. They aired in April of 2006. And to understand why these episodes matter so much, you need a little context about what was happening in the world at the time. In September 2005, a Danish newspaper published 12 editorial cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad. The publication triggered massive international protests, death threats, and actual violence. People were killed in riots, embassies were attacked. The debate over whether it was acceptable to depict Muhammad in any visual form became one of the defining free speech controversies of the decade. South Park waded directly into this fire. The two-part episode centers on the animated show Family Guy, which within the South Park universe is about to air an episode that depicts Muhammad. The whole country panics. People are terrified of the backlash. And two characters take opposing sides. Kyle believes the Family Guy episode should air, not because he wants to offend anyone, but because pulling it would set a precedent that anyone who threatens violence can control what the rest of the world is allowed to see. If you censor something because one group threatens to riot, you have just taught every group on the planet that the way to get what they want is to threaten violence. Cartman wants the episode pulled, and here's the twist that makes this episode brilliant. Cartman does not care about sensitivity or cultural respect. He does not care about Muslims or Muhammad or anyone's feelings. Cartman wants the episode censored because he hates Family Guy and sees this controversy as an opportunity to get the show canceled entirely. He is weaponizing the outrage of others for his own selfish agenda. And that is the sharpest observation in the entire two-parter. The people pushing hardest for censorship are rarely doing it out of genuine concern. They are doing it because censorship is a tool, and tools get used by whoever picks them up. Cartman does not represent people who sincerely want to protect religious feelings. He represents every person and institution that has ever used the language of sensitivity as a weapon to silence something they personally dislike. Kyle goes on an absolute mission to stop Cartman and ensure the episode airs. He argues passionately that either everything is okay to mock or nothing is. You cannot have free expression that only protects speech everyone already agrees with. That is not free expression at all. That is just consensus. Now here is where real life collided with the show in the most jaw-dropping way possible. When Cartoon Wars Part 2 actually aired on Comedy Central, the network did exactly what the episode was arguing against. Comedy Central censored the image of Muhammad. They replaced it with a black screen and a title card that said, "Comedy Central has refused to broadcast an image of Muhammad on their network." Trey Parker and Matt Stone did not approve this. The network made the decision over their objections. So the audience watched an episode about the dangers of censorship, in which the actual network airing the episode committed the very act of censorship the episode was warning about. It was surreal. The show was arguing that giving into threats empowers the people making those threats, and in real time, the network proved the show's point by giving in. Parker later said in interviews that it was one of the most frustrating moments of his career. They were trying to make a point about free expression, and the network's decision to censor became a louder statement than anything the episode itself could have made. The lesson South Park delivers here is uncomfortable but important. Free expression means protecting speech you disagree with. That is the entire point. If you only support free expression for ideas you already like, you do not actually support free expression. You support your own comfort. When you allow anyone, whether it is a government, a corporation, or a mob, to determine what ideas are too dangerous to be expressed, You're handing control to whoever threatens the loudest. And once that precedent exists, it never gets used only against things you dislike. Eventually, it gets aimed at you too. Cartman understood this instinctively. That is why he was so eager to push for censorship. Not because he cared about protecting anyone, but because he understood that censorship is a weapon and he wanted to wield it. Kyle understood it too, which is why he fought so hard against it. Because he knew that once you hand that weapon to one person, everyone else eventually becomes a target. South Park's creators did not just write about this lesson, they lived it. And the fact that Comedy Central proved their point for them in real time on the same broadcast is one of the most remarkable moments in television history. This next lesson comes from Season 4, Episode 12. It is called Fourth Grade. And it might be the most relatable episode South Park ever made because it is about something every single person has felt at some point in their life. It is about wanting to go back. The episode opens with the boys starting fourth grade, new classroom, new teacher, and immediately everything feels wrong. Third grade was comfortable, third grade made sense. They knew the rules, they knew the routine, they knew where they stood. Fourth grade is harder, more confusing, and scarier. The teacher is stricter. The expectations are higher. And the boys are overwhelmed. So they come up with a plan. They're going to build a time machine and go back to third grade. Now, this being South Park, they actually build one. Or rather, they recruit the two smartest kids in school, Timmy and a couple of science-minded classmates, to help them construct a time travel device. And the thing is, it works. Sort of. They actually manage to create a functioning time machine. But before they use it, their former third grade teacher, Ms. Chalksandik, has a conversation with their old teacher, Mr. Garrison. And what she tells them becomes the emotional core of the episode. She explains that the boys are struggling because fourth grade is genuinely harder than third grade. But she also says something else. She says the whole point of growing up is that the game keeps getting harder. Each level is more difficult than the last. And that is not a flaw in the system. That is the system working correctly. The challenges ahead of you are what build you into who you are supposed to become. If the game never got harder, you would never grow. You would just stay the same forever. Comfortable and stagnant, trapped in a version of yourself that never had to stretch or struggle or adapt. The boys listen, they process it, and they make a choice that is surprisingly mature for a group of animated 9-year-olds. They choose not to go back. They dismantle the time machine and accept that fourth grade, with all its difficulty and uncertainty, is where they need to be. This episode hit differently when it aired in the year 2000, and it hits even harder now. We live in an era of weaponized nostalgia. Every social media feed is flooded with only 90s kids remember this content. Every streaming platform is rebooting shows from 20 years ago. Every other conversation includes someone saying things were better back then, and in many cases, maybe some things were better. But the instinct to retreat into the past instead of facing the present is one of the most seductive and destructive traps available to a human being. Nostalgia feels warm. It feels safe. It filters out all the pain and difficulty of the past and presents you with a highlight reel of comfort. But it is a lie. Third grade was not actually perfect. The boys just remember it that way because it was familiar. The reality is that third grade had its own problems, its own fears, its own confusion. They just cannot remember those parts as vividly because the passage of time smoothed everything out. South Park catches this perfectly. The desire to go backward is natural, but acting on it means refusing to become the person the future needs you to be. The challenges ahead are not obstacles in your path. They are the path. And the only way through is forward. Every time you catch yourself thinking about how much better things used to be, remember the boys standing next to a working time machine and choosing to walk away. All right, now we are going to talk about family, and specifically, we are going to talk about what family actually means because South Park has a take on this that is both crude and deeply moving, and honestly, it might make you a little emotional if you let it. Season 2, Episode 4, Ike's Wee Wee. It aired on May 20th, 1998 during the show's first full year on the air. And despite being one of the earliest episodes, it contains one of the show's most enduring emotional truths. The episode starts with Kyle learning that his baby brother Ike is about to have a bris, which is the Jewish circumcision ceremony. Kyle, being a kid, wildly misunderstands what this means and thinks his parents are going to cut off Ike's entire penis. He panics and decides he needs to save his brother. But in the middle of his panic, Kyle discovers something else, something that actually shakes him. He finds out that Ike is adopted. Not only that, Ike is from Canada. Kyle's parents adopted Ike as a baby, and they are not biologically related at all. This hits Kyle like a truck. He feels betrayed. He feels like his whole relationship with Ike was built on a lie. If Ike is not his real brother, then what are they? Kyle's immediate reaction is to reject Ike. He pushes him away. He tells him they are not really brothers. He is angry and confused and hurt. And he takes all of those feelings out on a toddler who has no idea what is happening. Meanwhile, there is a B-plot involving Mr. Mackey getting fired from the school and spiraling into drug use, which is classic South Park absurdity. But the emotional weight of the episode stays with Kyle and Ike. As the episode progresses, Ike's biological parents from Canada come to take him back. The Canadian government has passed a new law requiring all adopted Canadian children to be returned to Canada. Ike is going to be taken away from the Broflovskis permanently. And that is when Kyle realizes what an idiot he has been. It does not matter that Ike is adopted. It does not matter that Ike is from Canada. It does not matter that they do not share DNA. Ike is his brother. Ike has been his brother from the very first moment Kyle held him. The biology was never the thing that made them family. The love was. The showing up was. The hundreds of tiny moments where Kyle protected Ike, played with Ike, worried about Ike, all of that was real regardless of what any adoption document says. Kyle fights to get Ike back. He rallies the town. He makes an impassioned case. And when he finally gets Ike home safe, he says something simple that carries the full weight of the episode. He calls Ike his brother, not his adopted brother, his brother. The lesson here is not complicated, but it is one that a lot of people need to hear, maybe especially the people who grew up in complicated family situations. Blood does not define family, love and loyalty do. The people who show up for you when everything goes wrong, the people who fight for you when it would be easier not to, the people who choose you even when they do not have to, those are your family. A shared last name is just paperwork. A shared bloodline is just genetics. But choosing to love someone and showing up for them day after day, that is family. And no legal document or biological technicality can take that away. South Park delivered this lesson in 1998, in the second season, when the show was still mostly known for shock value and toilet humor. And it did it through a storyline about a Jewish kid and his adopted Canadian baby brother. The fact that it works, that it genuinely makes you feel something, is proof that this show was always more than what it appeared to be on the surface. If you have people in your life who are not related to you by blood, but who have been there for you in ways that matter, this episode is for them. Family is who shows up. Everything else is just details. This next episode won an Emmy. It holds a 9.5 out of 10 on IMDb, making it the second highest rated episode in the entire series. It aired on October 4th, 2006, and it changed the way an entire generation thought about video game addiction. It is called Make Love, Not Warcraft. If you have ever played an online game for way too long, if you have ever looked up from a screen and realized that hours have disappeared, if you have ever chosen a virtual achievement over a real-world responsibility, this episode is going to hit uncomfortably close to home. The premise is this. The boys are playing World of Warcraft, the massively multiplayer online role-playing game that at its peak had over 12 million active subscribers. They are having a great time. But there is a problem. Another player, a nameless griefer with an insanely overpowered character, keeps killing them. over and over. Every time they log in, this player finds them and destroys them. They cannot progress. They cannot enjoy the game. This one person is ruining the experience for everyone. So the boys hatch a plan. They are going to level up their characters enough to defeat the griefer. But the only way to do that is to play nonstop. And I mean nonstop. They do not leave their computers. They barely eat. They stop showering. They stop exercising. They stop going outside. The episode shows their physical transformation in brutal, unflinching detail. The boys gain massive amounts of weight. Their skin breaks out. Their eyes become sunken and glazed. They start using the bathroom in buckets next to their desks so they do not have to stop playing. Their parents try to intervene, and the boys are so absorbed that they barely acknowledge them. The Blizzard Entertainment executives in the episode, and yes, this episode was made with actual cooperation from Blizzard, recognize that the boys are the server's only hope of defeating the griefer. They send a legendary item, the Sword of 1,000 Truths, to help them win the final battle. And the boys do win. After weeks of nonstop grinding, after sacrificing their health, their hygiene, their social lives, and basically everything about their real existence, they defeat the griefer. They save the server. The epic battle is over. And then comes the final moment. The boys are sitting in Cartman's basement, bloated, pale, wrecked, surrounded by food wrappers and empty bottles. Stan asks, "What do we do now?" And Cartman responds, "Now we can finally play the game." That final line is one of the most devastating punchlines in television history because it reveals the trap. They spent so long grinding, so long preparing, so long sacrificing their real lives to achieve a virtual goal that they forgot the original point was supposed to be fun. The game consumed them. The preparation replaced the purpose. They lost everything that mattered in order to win something that did not. The brilliance of this episode is that it never lectures. It does not have a character stand up and say, addiction is bad. It shows you. It lets you watch the boys destroy themselves in pursuit of a digital accomplishment, and it trusts you to draw the connection to your own life. And the lesson extends far beyond video games. Addiction is not limited to substances. Anything that makes you sacrifice your real life for a simulated reward can consume you. Social media, where you trade genuine human connection for likes and notifications. Workaholism, where you trade your health and relationships for career metrics. Even self-improvement culture, where the pursuit of optimization becomes its own form of escapism. The boys got everything they wanted in the game. They won the battle, they defeated the villain, they became legendary, and they were destroyed versions of themselves by the time they got there. The victory was real in the game and meaningless in reality. South Park is asking a question that most people avoid. What are you grinding for? And when you finally get it, will you still be someone who can enjoy it? Or will you have sacrificed everything that made enjoyment possible in the first place? Make Love, Not Warcraft won the Emmy for Outstanding Animated Program in 2007. It deserved it. Not because it was funny, although it is one of the funniest episodes the show ever produced. It deserved it because underneath the humor, it tells the truth about what happens when a person lets an obsession, any obsession, replace their actual life. And that truth has only gotten sharper in the 2 decades since it aired. If you are still here, still listening, still letting this wash over you, go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. We are not even halfway through, and the lessons coming up are going to get even heavier. Trust me on this. All right, this next one is dark. I need to warn you about that up front. It is one of the most uncomfortable episodes South Park ever produced, and it is uncomfortable on purpose. Because the lesson it delivers requires you to sit in that discomfort. If you flinch away from it, you miss the point. Season 12, Episode 2. Britney's New Look, it aired on March 19, 2008. And it is about the way we as a society consume celebrity destruction for entertainment, and how the machinery of fame is designed not to elevate people, but to systematically tear them apart. The episode opens with the boys trying to get a photograph of Britney Spears, who in the South Park universe is hiding out at a nearby resort. The real Britney Spears, at the time this episode aired, was in the middle of a very public and very painful breakdown. She had shaved her head. She had been photographed attacking paparazzi vehicles with an umbrella. She had lost custody of her children. The tabloid coverage was relentless, predatory, and gleeful. South Park takes this reality and pushes it to its logical extreme. In the episode, Britney is so hounded by the media and public that she attempts to take her own life with a shotgun. She survives, but she is grotesquely disfigured. And here's the disturbing part. The media does not stop. The paparazzi do not leave her alone. If anything, her disfigurement makes her a bigger spectacle. The cameras keep clicking, the headlines keep running, the public keeps consuming. The boys are initially part of this machine. They wanted that photograph. They were willing to invade her privacy to get it. But as the episode progresses, Stan and Kyle start to feel sick about what they are participating in. They see Britney being paraded in front of cameras, humiliated, broken, barely functional, and they recognize that something deeply wrong is happening. They try to help her. They try to get her out of the public eye, but it does not work. The mob is too powerful. The machinery of celebrity destruction is too entrenched. Everyone from talk show hosts to random people on the street feels entitled to their piece of Britney. She is not a person to them anymore. She is content. The episode builds to a deeply unsettling conclusion. It is revealed that the destruction of Britney Spears is not random cruelty. It is ritualistic sacrifice. The town, and by extension the entire country, is participating in an ancient harvest ritual where a young woman is selected, elevated to fame, and then systematically destroyed to ensure a good crop season. Once Britney is fully consumed, the public simply turns its attention to the next sacrifice. The episode ends with the camera settling on a young Miley Cyrus, implying that she is next. When this episode aired in 2008, some people called it tasteless. They said it was too cruel, too soon, too real. And maybe it was. But everything South Park predicted came true. The public moved on from Britney and did the exact same thing to the next generation of young celebrities. The cycle repeated exactly as the episode said it would. The lesson here is one that most people do not want to hear. When you consume celebrity gossip, when you click on a tabloid headline about someone's breakdown, when you share a meme about a famous person's worst moment, you are not an innocent bystander. You are part of the machine. The mob does not think, it feeds, and every click, every share, every moment of attention you give to someone else's suffering is fuel for a system designed to chew people up and spit them out. South Park forces you to look in the mirror during this episode. It does not let you pretend you are different from the paparazzi or the tabloids. If you consume the content, you are the demand that creates the supply. And the supply is human beings being destroyed for your entertainment. The next time you see a headline about a celebrity's breakdown and feel that pull to click, remember this episode. Remember that the person on the other side of that headline is a real human being. And remember that the machine only keeps running because people like us keep feeding it. Now let us talk about money. Specifically, let us talk about one of the clearest and most surprisingly accurate explanations of economic psychology that has ever appeared on television. And yes, it came from South Park, Season 13, Episode 3, Margaritaville. It aired on March 25th, 2009, right in the middle of the global financial crisis. The Great Recession was tearing through the economy. Banks were collapsing, people were losing their homes, retirement accounts were evaporating. The entire country was in a state of financial panic, and nobody seemed to be able to explain what was happening in a way that normal people could understand. South Park stepped in and did exactly that. The episode starts with Randy Marsh becoming convinced that the economic downturn is a form of divine punishment. The economy, Randy decides, is angry. The people of South Park spent too recklessly, they were too greedy, and now the economy is punishing them for their sins. Randy starts preaching austerity like a televangelist. He throws away his credit cards, he cancels all spending, he starts wearing bed sheets instead of buying clothes. He insists that the entire town stop spending money entirely until the economy forgives them. The town listens, everyone goes full austerity, they stop buying things, they stop going to restaurants. Businesses shut down. The local economy contracts even further. And the irony is that Randy's response to the recession is making the recession dramatically worse. By telling everyone to stop spending, he is removing the very activity that keeps an economy functioning. Meanwhile, Kyle goes on his own journey to understand what is actually happening. He traces the financial crisis through the system, following the money from bad mortgages to bundled securities to insurance derivatives, and the episode walks the viewer through the actual mechanics of the 2008 crash in a way that is genuinely educational. It is simplified, sure, but the core logic is sound. Kyle eventually arrives at a revelation that becomes the emotional climax of the episode. He realizes that the economy is not a god. It is not a natural force that punishes and rewards. It is a human invention. It is a collective agreement. Money only works because people believe it works. The economy only functions because people participate in it. When everyone panics and stops spending, the system collapses, not because of some external catastrophe, but because collective belief evaporated. Kyle literally goes on a spending spree with a credit card, buying things for everyone in town, essentially performing a one-kid stimulus package. And it works. People start spending again. Businesses reopen. The cycle of economic activity resumes. Now, the episode presents this in a way that is obviously satirical. Kyle is clearly paralleling the government bailouts that were happening at the time, and the show is definitely poking fun at the idea that you can just spend your way out of a crisis. But underneath the satire, Kyle's speech about the economy contains a genuinely profound insight. Economic systems are human inventions, not natural laws. They are agreements we all participate in, and they work because we collectively agree they work. Fear and panic do more damage than the problems that cause them. When everyone starts acting as if the sky is falling, the sky actually does fall, not because of gravity, but because everyone stopped holding it up. Randy's response to the crisis, treating it like divine retribution and retreating into austerity, is exactly what millions of real people did. They pulled back, hoarded resources, and waited for things to get better. And that collective pulling back is what made things worse. The recession fed on fear the same way a fire feeds on oxygen. Kyle's speech about the economy being simultaneously not real and yet real is one of those rare moments where a cartoon manages to explain something better than most economics professors. Money is paper. Value is assigned. Markets are psychological. And the most dangerous thing you can do during a financial crisis is convince everyone that the crisis is permanent, because then it becomes one. South Park aired this in March of 2009. The economy did eventually recover, and when it did, it recovered for exactly the reasons Kyle described. People started believing again. They started spending again. The collective agreement resumed. The invisible thing that holds the whole system together, human confidence, slowly rebuilt itself. All right, this next one is about tolerance. But not in the way you might expect, because South Park has a take on tolerance that is going to challenge pretty much everyone, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum. Season 6, Episode 14, The Death Camp of Tolerance. It aired on November 20th, 2002. And it is one of the sharpest, most misunderstood episodes the show ever produced. The setup is this. Mr. Garrison wants to get fired from South Park Elementary. He has recently come out as gay, and he figures that if he behaves outrageously enough in the classroom, the school will fire him, and then he can sue for millions of dollars in a discrimination lawsuit. His plan is to act so inappropriately that the school has no choice but to let him go. So Garrison starts doing absolutely horrifying things in front of his students. Things I cannot even describe in detail here because they are genuinely that extreme. He is using his teaching assistant, Mr. Slave, in ways that no reasonable human being would consider acceptable in any professional setting, let alone an elementary school classroom. The boys are traumatized. They go home and tell their parents what is happening, and here is where the episode gets brilliant. The parents do not listen. Instead of investigating what Garrison is actually doing in the classroom, the parents assume that the boys are being intolerant of Garrison's sexuality. They punish the kids for being bigoted. And when the boys continue to complain, the parents send them to tolerance camp. Tolerance camp is depicted exactly like a concentration camp. The children are put through brutal conditions, forced to paint pictures of people of different ethnicities holding hands, and are punished for any complaints. The imagery is deliberately provocative. South Park is drawing a direct visual parallel between enforced tolerance and authoritarian oppression. Meanwhile, Garrison keeps escalating his behavior, getting more and more outrageous, and the school keeps rewarding him for it. He receives a tolerance award. He is celebrated as a brave pioneer. Nobody is actually paying attention to what he is doing. They are just responding to the category he belongs to, and assuming that any criticism must be motivated by bigotry. The episode reaches its climax when the boys finally escape tolerance camp and confront the adults. And the lesson they deliver is razor sharp. There is a difference between tolerating who someone is and accepting everything someone does. Garrison is gay. That is who he is, and there is nothing wrong with that. But the specific things he is doing in the classroom are wildly inappropriate regardless of his sexuality. Tolerating his identity does not mean you have to accept his behavior. Those are two different things. The adults in the episode confused these two concepts completely. They heard the boys complaining about Garrison's actions and assumed they were complaining about Garrison's identity. And because they were so terrified of being labeled intolerant, they overcompensated in the opposite direction. They created an environment where literally any behavior was acceptable as long as the person doing it belonged to a protected category. South Park is not making an anti-tolerance argument here. It is making a pro-nuance argument. True tolerance means respecting people while still being able to say that specific behaviors are unacceptable. Conflating someone's identity with their actions leads to absurdity, the exact absurdity that the episode depicts. You can fully accept who someone is and still hold them accountable for what they do. In fact, treating someone as if they are above criticism because of their identity is its own form of disrespect. It reduces them to a category instead of treating them as a full, accountable human being. This episode made people angry in 2002, and it would make people even angrier today. But the lesson it delivers is one that almost every difficult cultural conversation eventually arrives at. Tolerance is not the same as unconditional acceptance of all behavior. Nuance is not bigotry. And the inability to distinguish between who someone is and what someone does leads to a world where nobody's allowed to set reasonable boundaries without being accused of hatred. South Park saw this coming more than 20 years ago. And the conversation still has not caught up. If you are still with me, good. Because this next lesson is about something that affects literally every single person, whether they realize it or not. It is about voting and choices and what happens when you decide that caring is beneath you. Season 8, Episode 8, Douche and Turd. It aired on October 27, 2004, just days before the real presidential election between George W. Bush and John Kerry. And the timing was not a coincidence. The episode starts with the school needing a new mascot. The old one, a cow, has been protested by animal rights activists, so the students hold an election to pick a replacement. The two finalists are a giant douche and a turd sandwich. Stan looks at both options and refuses to vote. He thinks the whole thing is stupid. Why should he bother choosing between a douche and a turd? They are both terrible. He does not see the point. Now, the town takes voting very seriously. When Stan refuses to participate, He is ostracized. Puff Daddy shows up and literally threatens to kill Stan if he does not vote, a reference to Diddy's Vote or Die campaign from the 2004 election. PETA gets involved. Stan is eventually banished from South Park entirely for his refusal to engage in the democratic process. Through all of this, Stan maintains his position. Both options are garbage. Voting for either one is endorsing garbage. He would rather opt out entirely. But then Kyle delivers a speech that becomes the heart of the episode. He tells Stan that nearly every election, every choice, every decision in life comes down to a douche and a turd. That is just how it works. The options are almost never perfect. They are almost never even good. But refusing to choose does not make you smart or principled or above it all. It just means other people make the choice for you, and those people might not care about the things you care about. Stan eventually votes. He picks the giant douche, and the turd sandwich wins anyway. His vote did not change the outcome. But the lesson is not about winning. The lesson is about participation. Voter apathy feels sophisticated. It feels like you are seeing through the system. Everyone else is a sucker for engaging with rigged options, but you are too smart for that. Except that is exactly backwards. Refusing to participate is not an act of intelligence. It is an act of surrender. You are not transcending the system by sitting out. You are just handing your power to whoever does show up. And this extends far beyond elections. How many times in your life have you refused to make a choice because neither option was perfect? How many times have you stayed frozen, waiting for some ideal third path that never materialized while the world moved on without you? How many relationships, jobs, opportunities, and experiences have you missed because you were too busy waiting for an option that did not have a downside? South Park's cynicism here is bracing but ultimately hopeful. The show is not saying the system is great, it is saying the system is what it is, and the only thing worse than choosing between two bad options is letting someone else choose for you. Making an imperfect decision is still an act of agency. Sitting on the sidelines and complaining is just comfort disguised as conviction. The douchey and turd metaphor has become one of the most referenced political observations in American culture, and it resonates every single election cycle. Because every single election cycle, people look at their options and say, these are both terrible. And every single election cycle, South Park's answer remains the same. Yeah, they usually are. Vote anyway. If you're still listening, still awake, still taking this in, hit that subscribe button. We are past the halfway mark now, and the lessons ahead are some of the strongest. Stick with me. All right, now we are going to talk about greed. And South Park has an episode about greed that is so perfectly constructed, so airtight in its logic, that it should be taught in economics classes alongside actual textbooks. Season 5, Episode 6, Cartman Land. It aired on July 25th, 2001, and it is, in my opinion, one of the 5 best episodes the show ever produced. The premise is simple. Cartman's grandmother dies and leaves him $1 million. Cartman, being Cartman, does the most Cartman thing imaginable with the money. He buys an entire amusement park, not to run as a business, not to share with anyone. He buys it specifically so he can ride all the rides by himself without any lines, without any other people. He literally names it Cartman Land and puts up a sign that says, "No one else allowed, especially Stan and Kyle." This is pure Cartman. His entire philosophy is concentrated into one purchase. He wants the joy without the people. He wants the benefit without the participation. He wants to hoard an experience that was designed to be shared. And at first, it works. Cartman rides every ride alone. He is ecstatic. This is his paradise. Meanwhile, Kyle is going through a genuine crisis of faith. Kyle has always believed that bad things happen to bad people and good things happen to good people. But watching Cartman, the worst person he knows, inherit $1 million and buy a private amusement park is shaking Kyle's belief to its core. Kyle develops a stress-induced hemorrhoid so severe that it becomes life-threatening. He is literally dying because the universe appears to be rewarding evil. But then reality kicks in. Cartman discovers that running an amusement park requires maintenance. Rides break down. He needs mechanics. Mechanics need to be paid. So he lets in a few paying customers to cover costs. But then he needs security to handle the customers, and concessions, and more staff. Each problem creates a new cost, which requires more customers, which creates more problems. The park gets more crowded, and more crowded, and more crowded, until Cartmanland is packed to capacity, exactly like any other amusement park. Cartman cannot even enjoy his own rides because the lines are too long. He has recreated the exact situation he spent $1 million trying to escape. And it gets worse. The IRS shows up. Cartman owes taxes on the inheritance and on the business income. He has no records, no accounting, no financial plan. The government seizes the park. Cartman loses everything. He is left with nothing. Kyle, watching this unfold from his hospital bed, makes a miraculous recovery. His faith is restored. The universe does work. Karma is real. Bad things do happen to bad people. It just takes a little longer sometimes. This episode is a masterclass in dramatic irony. Every single thing Cartman does to preserve his selfishness is the thing that destroys it. He wanted a private park, so he bought one. But a park needs workers, so he had to let people in. But people need management, so he needed more staff. But staff needs money, so he needed more people. Each selfish decision cascaded into the next, and the cascade led directly back to the thing he was running from. The lesson is devastating in its simplicity. Hoarding resources defeats their purpose. Joy, wealth, experiences, success, none of these things work in isolation. They all require other people to function. Cartman wanted happiness without community, and the universe corrected him with mathematical precision. You cannot ride a roller coaster alone forever. Someone has to build it, maintain it, and keep the lights on. The moment you try to cut everyone else out of the equation collapses. And there is a deeper layer here about how selfishness is inherently self-defeating. Cartman did not fail because of bad luck or external interference. He failed because his own philosophy is structurally unsound. Selfishness requires isolation, and isolation is unsustainable. It does not matter how much money you have. If your plan depends on never needing another human being, your plan will fail. This applies to billionaires building bunkers, to people who ghost every relationship the moment it gets complicated, to anyone who thinks they can opt out of the social contract and still enjoy its benefits. South Park is saying very clearly that the version of success where you have everything and share nothing is a fantasy. It literally cannot work. The math does not allow it. This next lesson is one of the most nuanced things South Park has ever done. It is about religion, but it is not the show dunking on religion, which it has certainly done plenty of. It is the show acknowledging with genuine respect that faith can produce genuinely good people, even if the faith itself seems ridiculous on paper. Season 7, Episode 12, All About Mormons. It aired on November 19th, 2003, and it is a masterpiece of balanced storytelling. The episode starts when a new kid named Gary Harrison moves to South Park. Gary is Mormon. His entire family is Mormon. And they are, without exaggeration, the nicest, most functional, happiest family anyone in South Park has ever encountered. They are kind to each other. They eat dinner together. They help their neighbors. They are genuine and warm and completely sincere. Stan is suspicious. Nobody is that nice. There has to be something wrong with them. So he starts investigating, and the episode takes us through the origin story of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And it does not hold back. The show presents the Joseph Smith story in vivid detail, and it is not flattering. Each incredible claim is punctuated with a sarcastic musical refrain. The episode shows Smith finding golden plates that nobody else can see, translating them using magic stones and a hat, losing the first translation and then producing a conveniently different version, and a series of other events that the show presents as, frankly, absurd. Now, if this were any other show, that would be the whole point. Religion is silly, the end, everyone go home. But South Park does something unexpected. After spending the entire episode demolishing the historical claims of Mormonism, it circles back to the Harrison family. Gary's dad sits down with Stan and tells him honestly that he knows how the origin story sounds. He knows it requires faith. He knows people think it is crazy. But his faith gives him a framework for living a good life, and his family is happy, loving, and thriving because of the values it provides. And then Gary himself delivers the knockout speech. Stan has been rude about Gary's religion. He has been dismissive and mocking. And Gary does not cower. He does not get defensive. He does not try to convince Stan of anything. He simply says that his family has a great life. He has a great relationship with his parents. He has friends. He is happy. And maybe his religion believes in some things that sound crazy. But the question is not whether every historical claim of a religion holds up under scrutiny. The question is whether it produces good people who treat others well. Gary does not need Stan's approval. He does not need anyone's approval. He knows who he is, he knows what he believes, and he is confident enough in himself that someone else's opinion literally does not matter to him. He tells Stan that if he cannot be friends with someone just because of their religion, then Stan is the one with the problem. That final moment lands like a punch, because Gary is right. You can think someone's beliefs are wrong and still respect the person. What matters is not whether a belief system is true in a historical or scientific sense. What matters is whether it produces good people who treat others well and live with integrity. South Park goes out of its way in this episode to separate the claims of a religion from the people who practice it. And in doing so, it delivers one of the most mature and thoughtful statements about faith that has ever appeared on a comedy show. Most people do not believe what they believe because they have rigorously examined the evidence. They believe what they believe because it gives them a framework for living. And the quality of that framework should be judged by the quality of the lives it produces. Gary Harrison does not win the argument by defending Mormonism's historical claims. He wins by being a good person and not needing anyone's validation. That confidence, that quiet self-assurance in the face of mockery is the real lesson. You do not owe anyone an explanation for who you are. You do not need to win every debate. You just need to live in a way that speaks for itself. If you are still listening, still drifting, still somewhere between awake and asleep, this next one is for you. Because this episode is about that feeling, the one where everything you used to love suddenly stops working, where the music sounds wrong, where your friends feel distant, where the entire world looks like it is covered in a layer of something ugly that only you can see. If you have ever felt that way, South Park made an episode about it, and it might be the most honest thing the show has ever done. Season 15, Episode 7, You're Getting Old. It aired on June 8th, 2011, and it broke the show, not accidentally, deliberately. The episode opens on Stan's 10th birthday. He is having a party, his friends are there, his parents give him the latest tween wave music album, which is the hot thing all the kids are listening to. Stan puts it on, excited, and the moment the music starts playing, something is wrong. It does not sound like music to Stan, it sounds like actual feces. Literally, the audio is replaced with the sound of flatulence and defecation. Stan is confused. Everyone else loves the music. Kyle is dancing, Cartman is vibing, but to Stan, it just sounds like crap, literal crap. He tries again with a movie, same thing. The movie looks and sounds like garbage to him. He tries a new video game, same result. Everything that his peers enjoy, everything that culture is producing, it all registers to Stan as total waste. He goes to the doctor. The diagnosis is cynicism. Stan has become a cynical asshole. The doctor explains that this is a known condition. As people get older, the things they used to enjoy start to seem worse. Music seems worse, movies seem worse, new trends seem pointless. And the person experiencing this genuinely believes the world has gotten objectively worse, when in reality, it is their ability to enjoy things that has eroded. The episode does not treat this as a joke, it treats it as a tragedy. Stan starts losing his friends. Kyle cannot understand why Stan does not like anything anymore. Their friendship fractures because Stan cannot stop pointing out that everything is terrible, and Kyle does not want to spend time with someone who refuses to enjoy anything. Meanwhile, Stan's parents are going through their own crisis. Sharon and Randy's marriage has been deteriorating for years, and this episode brings it to a head. Sharon tells Randy she wants a separation. In one of the most emotionally raw scenes the show has ever produced, Sharon explains that she is tired of the same cycle. Randy has a new obsession every week. He goes all in, it causes chaos, they fight about it, things go back to normal. And then it happens again. She is exhausted by the pattern and she wants out. The episode ends with Stan, alone, watching the world around him. His parents are splitting up. His best friend has replaced him with Cartman. Everything he loved has turned to crap, literally and figuratively. Stevie Nicks' Landslide plays over a montage of Stan's life falling apart. Sharon packs boxes, Randy moves out, Kyle walks away. There is no resolution. The episode just ends. No Kyle stepping forward to say he learned something today. No last-minute fix. No comedic button to release the tension. Just Stan sitting in his room as Fleetwood Mac plays him into the credits. When this episode aired, fans genuinely thought the show might be ending. It felt like a farewell. It felt like Trey Parker was using Stan as a proxy for his own exhaustion with the creative process, and maybe he was. The episode directly addresses what it feels like when the thing you built your life around stops bringing you joy. The lesson here is painful because it does not come with a solution. Cynicism is the natural byproduct of growing up. When you're young, everything is new and everything is exciting. But as you get older, you have seen more, experienced more, been disappointed more, and the world starts losing its shine. Music sounds derivative because you have heard the originals. Movies feel formulaic because you can see the structure. Trends seem stupid because you have watched a dozen identical ones come and go. And the terrifying part is that the cynicism feels like wisdom. It feels like you are finally seeing clearly. Everyone else is still fooled, still entertained, still buying into the machine. But you can see through it all, except that clarity comes at a cost. The cost is joy, the cost is connection, the cost is the ability to sit with your friends and just enjoy something without deconstructing it. South Park does not offer an easy answer because there is not one. Cynicism is real. The world does have problems. Not everything deserves your enthusiasm. But if you let cynicism become your default setting, it will eat everything. It will consume your friendships. It will destroy your relationships. It will turn every experience into evidence that nothing matters. Stan's tragedy is not that he is wrong about the things he criticizes. Some of that music probably is bad. Some of those movies probably are formulaic. His tragedy is that being right has made him miserable and alone. And no amount of being right is worth that. This episode asks you a question that does not have a comfortable answer. Would you rather be right and miserable, or occasionally foolish and happy? Because those might be the only two options. If you are still here, I appreciate it more than you know. Subscribe if you have not. We have got one more big lesson, and then we are going to bring this whole thing home. This last lesson is the one that matters most. And it comes from an episode that, for the first time in the show's run, treated death not as a punchline, but as something real and permanent and devastating. Season 5, Episode 13, Kenny Dies. It aired on December 5th, 2001. This was the first season finale after September 11th. and the show was in a different emotional place than it had ever been before. Kenny McCormick, as every South Park fan knows, dies in almost every episode. It is one of the show's original running gags. Something terrible happens to Kenny, Stan says. "Oh my God, they killed Kenny," Kyle says, "You bastards." And by the next episode, Kenny is back as if nothing happened. It is a joke. It has always been a joke until this episode. Kenny is diagnosed with a terminal muscular disease. And from the moment the diagnosis lands, the show makes it clear that this time is different. There is no comedic setup. There is no absurd cause of death. Kenny is just sick. Really sick. And he is going to die. Not for laughs. Not as a reset that gets undone next week. For real. The episode tracks 3 different responses to Kenny's illness, and each one reveals something profound about how people deal with the impending loss of someone they love. Stan cannot handle it. He wants to visit Kenny in the hospital, but every time he tries, he freezes. He makes excuses. He says he is busy. He says he will go tomorrow. The truth is that Stan is terrified. He is terrified of seeing Kenny suffering. He is terrified of saying the wrong thing. He is terrified of confronting the reality that his friend is dying and there is nothing he can do about it. So Stan does what a lot of people do when someone they love is suffering. He avoids. He tells himself he will deal with it later. He keeps pushing the visit to tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Kyle does the opposite. Kyle is at that hospital every single day. He sits with Kenny, he talks to him, he holds his hand. Kyle does not have any special ability to fix the situation. He cannot cure Kenny's disease. He cannot make it less painful. He cannot change the outcome. But he shows up. Every day he shows up. And that act of showing up, of being present, even when it is agonizing, is the bravest thing any character does in the entire episode. And then there is Cartman. Cartman appears to be devastated by Kenny's condition. He cries, he gives emotional speeches, he lobbies Congress to fund stem cell research. He seems, for the first time in the series, to genuinely care about someone other than himself. Fans watching for the first time are stunned. Is Cartman actually showing humanity? No, of course not. It turns out Cartman does not care about Kenny at all. He has been using Kenny's terminal illness as leverage to get Congress to legalize stem cell research, which Cartman needs for a completely separate and entirely selfish project. He has been faking his grief the entire time. Kenny's suffering is just a tool to Cartman, and in the middle of all this manipulation and avoidance and genuine heartbreak, Kenny dies, quietly in a hospital bed. With Kyle beside him, Stan arrives too late. Kenny is already gone, and the look on Stan's face when he realizes what he has done, or rather what he failed to do, is one of the most devastating moments in the show's entire run. Stan had every opportunity to be there. He had days, weeks, and he spent all of them avoiding the one thing that mattered most. Now Kenny is gone, and Stan can never get that time back. The hospital visits he kept postponing are permanently canceled. The lesson here is as simple as it is brutal. When someone you love is suffering, showing up is the hardest and most important thing you can do. Not fixing it, not solving it, not having the right words, just being there. Kyle did not cure Kenny. He did not make the pain go away. He just sat in a chair next to a hospital bed and refused to leave. And that was enough. That was everything. Stan learned the worst version of this lesson. He learned that avoidance feels safe in the moment, but it compounds into the deepest regret imaginable. Every day you put off visiting, every call you do not make, every conversation you postpone because it is too hard, those are not delays. They are permanent losses because the person you are avoiding will not wait forever. Nobody waits forever. And Cartman's arc is the show's darkest commentary. There will always be people who weaponize other people's pain for personal gain. Cartman is every person who performs empathy without feeling it, who uses tragedy as a platform, who says the right words while meaning none of them. The show puts Cartman's fake grief next to Kyle's real grief and dares you to see the difference. Kenny stayed dead for an entire season after this episode. He did not come back in the next episode. He did not reset. The show committed to the loss for the first time, and that commitment gave the episode its weight. When death is a joke, it cannot teach you anything. When death is real, it teaches you everything. The people around you will not be there forever. Your parents, your friends, your siblings, your partner, the person you keep meaning to call back. They all have an expiration date that you do not get to see in advance. The time to tell them they matter is right now, not tomorrow, not when it is convenient, not when you feel ready. Right now, because Stan thought he had tomorrow, and tomorrow came with an empty bed and a lifetime of regret. So here we are. We have been through 16 episodes, 16 lessons, 16 moments where a show about 4 foul-mouthed kids in a tiny Colorado town managed to say something genuinely true about the human experience. And when you step back and look at it all together, something becomes clear. South Park was never just a comedy. It was never just jock value or toilet humor or celebrity mockery. From the very beginning, from the very first episode that aired on August 13th, 1997, Trey Parker and Matt Stone were building something deeper. They built a show that disguises philosophy as profanity, that wraps empathy in absurdity, and that delivers genuine human truth through construction paper cutouts of children who swear more than most adults. The underpants gnomes taught us that confidence without a plan is just noise. Scott Tenorman taught us that revenge consumes everything it touches. Satan taught us to love ourselves before loving anyone else. The list taught us that our worth is not determined by someone else's ranking. Cartoon Wars taught us that free expression must protect speech we disagree with. 4th grade taught us that nostalgia is a trap, and the only way through life is forward. Ike taught us that family is who shows up. World of Warcraft taught us that obsession destroys even the victories it creates. Brittany taught us that we are complicit in the machines we feed. Margaritaville taught us that the economy runs on belief and fear is its worst enemy. Tolerance Camp taught us the difference between respecting who someone is and accepting everything they do. Douche and Turd taught us that imperfect choices still beat no choice at all. Cartmanland taught us that greed is structurally self-defeating. Gary Harrison taught us that faith should be judged by the lives it produces, not the stories it tells. Stan's 10th birthday taught us that cynicism eats joy if you let it. And Kenny taught us that the people around us will not be here forever, and the time to show up for them is now. Every single episode of South Park ends the same way. Someone steps forward and says, I learned something today. And the wild part is they actually did. They always did. That recurring speech was never just a gag. It was the thesis of the entire show. And if you have been listening tonight, drifting in and out, catching some of these lessons fully and absorbing others half asleep, I think you learned something today too. Maybe not all 16, maybe just one. But one is enough. One lesson that sticks, one perspective that shifts, one moment where a construction paper cartoon made you think about your life differently. That is enough. South Park has been doing this for nearly 30 years. 28 seasons, 338 episodes, 5 Emmys, a Peabody Award, a $1 billion deal that ensures it will keep going until at least 2030. And through all of it, through every controversy and every outrage and every think piece about whether the show has gone too far, it has kept doing the same thing it always does. It makes you laugh. And then, when you're not paying attention, it makes you think. If you enjoyed this, subscribe. If this is the kind of content you want more of, let me know in the comments which lesson hit you the hardest. And if you want to keep this going, there is a video on screen right now that I think you are going to love. Click it. I will see you there. Good night. Sleep well. And remember, you learned something today. Actually, you know what? Before we close this out completely, there are a few more lessons that I could not leave on the cutting room floor. These episodes deserve their moment too. So consider this the bonus round, the extra credit, the lessons that were too good not to include. Let us talk about what happens when you let the internet think for you, because South Park has been warning us about this for longer than most people realize. And honestly, the warning has only gotten more urgent with time. Season 19, Episode 1, Stunning and Brave. It aired on September 16th, 2015, and it introduced a character that would become one of the most important additions to the South Park universe in the show's entire history, PC Principal. PC Principal arrives at South Park Elementary as the new school principal. He is physically imposing. He is aggressive. He talks like a frat bro who just discovered social justice terminology and decided to enforce it with his fists. He does not politely ask people to be more sensitive. He screams at them. He threatens them. He physically assaults Cartman for using language he deems offensive. The joke is obvious on the surface. PC Principal is a parody of performative progressivism, the kind of social consciousness that is less about genuinely caring for marginalized people and more about demonstrating your own moral superiority. He does not help anyone. He polices language. He does not build bridges. He burns them loudly while insisting he is the most enlightened person in the room. But South Park does something sneaky with PC Principal over the course of the season. It reveals that PC culture, as the show presents it, is not driven by genuine empathy. It is driven by advertising algorithms. The season's villain is not PC Principal himself. It is a network of sentient advertisements that have evolved to the point where they can disguise themselves as human content. The ads figured out that the language of progressivism is the perfect camouflage. If you wrap a product pitch in the vocabulary of social justice, people will share it, defend it, and attack anyone who questions it. The implication is staggering. South Park is suggesting that the outrage machine is not organic, it is manufactured. The things people argue about online, the fights that consume entire news cycles, the debates that make everyone feel righteous and angry, many of them are not real conversations. They are content designed to generate engagement. And engagement is the only thing that matters to the systems profiting from your attention. This lesson has aged like a prophecy. Every year since 2015, the internet has become more outrage-driven, more algorithmically curated, and more hostile. And South Park's warning remains exactly the same. When you let the internet tell you what to be angry about, you are not thinking for yourself. You are reacting to stimuli that was engineered to provoke a reaction. The algorithms do not care about justice or truth, they care about engagement. And outrage is the most engaging emotion there is. PC Principal's aggression is funny because it is absurd. But the system behind PC Principal, the machinery of manufactured outrage and algorithmic manipulation, is not funny at all. It is the architecture of modern public discourse, and most people are living inside it without ever questioning who built it or why. South Park was screaming about this in 2015. Most of the world did not start listening until years later. Some people still have not. Here is another one that deserves its place in this conversation. Season 9, Episode 12, Trapped in the Closet. It aired on November 16th, 2005, and it became one of the most controversial episodes in television history, not because of what it said, but because of who it said it about. The episode tackles Scientology. Stan takes a personality test at a Scientology center, and his results are so extraordinary that the church becomes convinced he is the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard, the founder of Scientology. High-ranking members of the church, including a character depicted as the actor Tom Cruise, come to meet Stan. Tom Cruise asks Stan what he thinks of his acting. Stan, being honest, says it is okay but not as good as some other actors. Cruise is so devastated by this mild criticism that he literally goes into Stan's closet and refuses to come out. The rest of the episode involves various characters begging Cruise to come out of the closet. which is an obvious double entendre that the show deploys with zero subtlety and maximum comedic impact. Meanwhile, the episode presents the actual origin story of Scientology, the Xenu narrative, on screen. While the story is being told, a disclaimer runs across the bottom of the screen that simply says, "This is what Scientologists actually believe." The show presents the material without editorial comment, letting the audience draw their own conclusions. The fallout was enormous. Isaac Hayes, the beloved voice of Chef, and himself a Scientologist, left the show. Comedy Central pulled the episode from reruns under pressure. Tom Cruise allegedly threatened to not promote Mission Impossible 3, which Paramount was distributing if the episode aired again. Trey Parker's response was characteristically blunt. He said in interviews that if a religion cannot withstand being described accurately, that says more about the religion than about the person describing it. The lesson here is connected to the earlier lesson about free expression, but it adds another dimension. When institutions use their power to suppress accurate descriptions of themselves, they confirm the very criticisms they are trying to silence. Every act of suppression becomes an advertisement for the thing being suppressed. Comedy Central pulling the episode made more people watch it than the original broadcast ever could have. The Streisand effect, which South Park itself named and popularized in a much earlier episode, played out in real time. But the deeper lesson is about honesty in the face of institutional power. There will always be organizations, governments, corporations, and movements that respond to criticism with threats instead of arguments. They will try to silence you not because you're wrong, but because you're right, and the truth threatens their authority. South Park's response to every threat has been the same since the beginning. Make the next episode even more honest. That stubbornness, that refusal to back down in the face of organized pressure, is not just a comedy strategy, it is a life lesson. The things that powerful people try hardest to suppress are usually the things most worth saying. And while we are in this bonus section, we need to talk about one more. Because there is an episode that deals with something so specific and so universally experienced that I would be doing you a disservice to skip it. It is about what happens when you watch everyone around you get excited about something and you just cannot feel it. When the whole world moves in one direction and you are standing still, wondering what is wrong with you. Season 18, Episode 3, The Sissy. It aired on October 8th, 2014. Now, the A-plot of this episode deals with Cartman exploiting transgender bathroom policies for his own selfish purposes, which is the kind of provocative setup South Park loves. But the emotional heart of the episode belongs to someone else entirely. It belongs to Randy Marsh. Throughout the episode, Randy is struggling with a secret. He has been performing as a woman named Lorde, the actual pop star. The show's joke is that Lorde is not a teenage girl from New Zealand. She is Randy Marsh in a wig. He writes the songs in his bedroom, performs at local venues, and has somehow become one of the biggest pop stars in the world. But underneath the joke, something real is happening. Randy is dealing with an identity that does not fit neatly into the categories the world has prepared for him. He is a middle-aged man who expresses himself through a female pop persona, and the show, despite playing this for laughs, treats Randy's internal conflict with surprising tenderness. The emotional peak of the episode comes when Stan discovers the truth about Randy and Lorde. And instead of playing it for maximum embarrassment, the show goes quiet. Stan is confused. He does not understand why his dad is doing this, but he also does not reject him. There is a moment between them that is genuinely touching, where the show acknowledges that identity is complicated, that people contain multitudes, and that the people closest to you might be carrying things you never imagined. The lesson here is about the space between who people are and who the world expects them to be. Everyone carries something that does not fit the public version of themselves. Everyone has a Lorde inside them, some secret expression of who they really are that they are terrified to share because the world might not understand. South Park suggests that the appropriate response to discovering someone else's hidden truth is not mockery or rejection. It is patience. It is the willingness to sit with confusion instead of demanding clarity. The people around you are more complicated than you think. The person you see at work, at school, at the dinner table, they are performing a version of themselves that fits the expectations of the environment. The real person underneath might be wildly different. And the kindest thing you can do is create space for that real person to exist, even if you do not fully understand them. Let us also take a moment to talk about an episode that honestly changed the way I think about promises and authority. Season 5, Episode 3. Super Best Friends. It aired on July 4th, 2001. And while this episode is primarily known today for being one of the episodes pulled from streaming due to its depiction of Muhammad, there is a lesson buried inside it that has nothing to do with that particular controversy. The episode involves David Blaine, the real-life magician, starting a cult called Blaintology. He performs street magic that mesmerizes the population. People start joining his cult in droves. Kyle gets sucked in. He starts believing that Blaine is a genuine miracle worker and gives himself over to the organization completely. Stan tries to pull Kyle out, but Kyle resists. He has found meaning in Blaintology. He feels like he belongs. He has purpose. The cult gives him answers to questions he did not even know he was asking. And anyone who challenges those answers is an enemy. Stan eventually enlists the help of Jesus, who is a recurring character in South Park, to fight Blaine. The episode climaxes with an absurd battle involving a giant stone Abraham Lincoln brought to life to fight a giant David Blaine. It is peak South Park insanity. But the lesson underneath is about how easily intelligent people can be manipulated by charismatic authority. Kyle is not stupid. He is one of the smartest kids in the show. And yet he fell for a cult leader's performance because the performance answered an emotional need. Kyle wanted meaning. Kyle wanted certainty. And Blaine offered both, packaged in spectacle. This is how cults work. This is how con artists work. This is how demagogues work. They do not target stupid people. They target people who are searching for something, people who feel uncertain, unmoored, lacking in purpose, and they offer certainty in exchange for obedience. The deal seems fair until you realize that the certainty was manufactured and the obedience is permanent. South Park reminds us that the smartest people in the room are sometimes the most vulnerable to manipulation, because they are the ones who think they could never be manipulated. That confidence is the blind spot, and charismatic authority will always aim for the blind spot. And I want to squeeze in one more because this one is about something that every single person deals with, and almost nobody talks about honestly. It is about fitting in, about the pressure to like the things your group likes, to hate the things your group hates, to sand down every rough edge of yourself until you fit seamlessly into whatever social mold is available. Season 8, Episode 11, Quest for Ratings. It aired on November 17th, 2004. The boys start a school news show and compete against Craig's show, which is just 30 minutes of Craig looking at the camera and giving the audience the middle finger. Craig's show is wildly popular. The boys cannot compete. They try everything. They add flashy graphics, they do sensational stories, they manufacture drama, nothing works. Craig just sits there, flipping everyone off, and the audience loves it. Eventually, the boys resort to drinking cough syrup to come up with ideas so bizarre and outlandish that they can compete with Craig's effortless appeal. The episode is a satire of the news media and the race to the bottom that ratings pressure creates. But underneath that satire is a lesson about authenticity. Craig does not try to be anything. He does not perform. He does not package himself. He just sits there and does the only thing he knows how to do, and the audience responds because it is genuine. The boys, by contrast, keep trying to be something they are not. They keep adding layers of performance and spectacle, and every layer makes them less authentic and less compelling. The harder they try to be what they think the audience wants, the further they get from what the audience actually responds to. The lesson is deceptively simple. people can tell when you are performing. The algorithms, the strategies, the carefully curated personas, they might work for a while, but eventually the thing that connects with people is the real thing, the unpolished, unoptimized, sometimes uncomfortable real thing. Craig giving the middle finger is not sophisticated content, but it is honest content. And honest content will always outlast manufactured content in the long run. Stop trying to be what you think people want. Just be what you are. The right audience will find you, and the audience that does not, well, they were never yours to begin with. All right, now I really am wrapping this up. We went deep tonight, way deeper than most people expect from a video about a cartoon, but that is the whole point. South Park has always been deeper than most people expect. It has been doing this for almost 30 years, hiding wisdom inside absurdity, hiding empathy inside offensiveness, hiding genuine life-changing lessons inside episodes about underpants stealing gnomes and World of Warcraft addiction, and literal Satan going to therapy. Trey Parker and Matt Stone built something that will outlast almost every other show on television. Not because it is the most polished or the most critically acclaimed, but because it tells the truth. Messy, uncomfortable, sometimes offensive truth. And truth has a longer shelf life than anything else. If you made it all the way to the end, you are a rare person. Most people click away, most people skim, most people want the summary, not the depth. But you stayed, and I think that says something about who you are. Subscribe if you have not. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment telling me which lesson hit the hardest. And when you wake up tomorrow morning, whenever that is, I hope you carry at least one of these with you. Just one. That is all it takes. You know what? I learned something today. I learned that the best lessons do not come from the places you expect. They come from the places you least expect. And sometimes the most important teacher in your life is a foul-mouthed cartoon kid from Colorado who does not even know he is teaching. Good night, sleep well, and thanks for listening. Speaking of thinking for yourself, there is a small but perfect moment in the show that I keep coming back to. It is not from a specific landmark episode. It is from a pattern that repeats across dozens of episodes, and once you notice it, you cannot stop seeing it. Almost every episode of South Park features a moment where the adults in the town collectively lose their minds over something. They panic, they form mobs, they overreact. They latch on to the first explanation that sounds good, and they ride it into the ground. And almost every time, it is the children who see the situation clearly. The kids look around at the adults screaming and protesting and spiraling, and they say some version of, "This is stupid. Why are you all acting like this?" That dynamic is the backbone of the entire series. The adults represent groupthink. The children represent common sense. And the gap between the two is where the comedy lives. But it is also where the wisdom lives, because South Park is making a point that applies far beyond a fictional Colorado town. The point is that experience does not equal clarity. Getting older does not automatically make you wiser. In many cases, adults are less rational than children, not because they lack intelligence, but because they have accumulated more biases, more tribal affiliations, more emotional baggage, and more social pressure to conform. A child who says, "This does not make sense," is often seeing more clearly than an adult who has 17 reasons why the nonsensical thing is actually perfectly reasonable. This is why the show gives Kyle the "I learned something today" speech instead of giving it to an adult character. The children are the moral center of South Park because they have not yet been corrupted by the machinery that makes adults irrational. They still have the ability to look at something absurd and call it absurd without worrying about social consequences. As you get older, you accumulate layers. Layers of obligation, layers of identity, layers of ideology, layers of what you think you are supposed to believe based on the groups you belong to. And each layer makes it slightly harder to look at the world with fresh eyes, slightly harder to say the obvious thing, slightly harder to be honest. South Park suggests that the cure for this is not intelligence. It is honesty. Just the basic, unfiltered honesty of a kid who has not yet learned that some truths are socially inconvenient. That kind of honesty does not require courage in a child. It is their default state. But in an adult, it requires enormous courage because adults know the cost of saying what they actually think. The greatest compliment South Park ever pays its audience is the assumption that you're capable of that honesty. That you can hear an uncomfortable truth wrapped in a fart joke and recognize the truth underneath. That you can watch 4 animated children say the thing that every adult in the room is thinking but nobody will say, and instead of being offended, you can laugh, nod, and carry that honesty into your own life. That is the invitation the show has been extending for 28 years, not to agree with everything it says, not to adopt its politics or its tone or its worldview, just to be honest, with yourself, with others, and with the world, even when it is uncomfortable, especially when it is uncomfortable, because the uncomfortable truths are the only ones that actually change anything. Oh wait, I am not done yet. There are still a few more that I've been turning over in my head, and honestly, leaving them out would feel wrong, so let us keep going. Consider this the late-night extra credit for the people who are truly committed to this journey. Season 6, Episode 9, Free Hat. It aired on July 10th, 2002. And while the episode is primarily a satire about George Lucas and Steven Spielberg digitally altering their classic films, there is a lesson buried inside it that applies to something much bigger than movies. The boys are outraged because directors keep going back and changing their classic films. The re-release of Star Wars has been digitally altered. The re-release of E.T. replaced the guns with walkie-talkies. The fictional re-release of Saving Private Ryan has changed the word Nazi to persons with political differences. The boys cannot stand it. They form an organization to protest changes to classic movies. But to get people to show up to their meeting, Cartman writes "free hat" on their poster, meaning they will give out free hats to attendees. Everyone misunderstands and thinks the group is campaigning to free a man named Hat McCullough, who was imprisoned for killing 23 babies. The misunderstanding spirals completely out of control, and soon the boys are leading a movement to free a baby killer while trying to stop Spielberg and Lucas from re-editing Raiders of the Lost Ark. The satire is hilarious, but the lesson is about something subtle and important. It is about how movements get hijacked. The boys started with a genuine and reasonable cause. Protecting artistic integrity is a valid position. But the moment they compromised to get attention, the moment they slapped "free hat" on the poster to boost attendance, they lost control of their own message. The crowd showed up for free hats, not for artistic integrity. And once the crowd decided the movement was about freeing Hat McCullough, the boys could not course correct. This happens in real life constantly. A movement starts with a clear, defensible purpose. But to grow, it compromises. It broadens its message to attract more supporters. It makes concessions to get attention. And before long, the thing the movement is actually fighting for has been buried under the thing it became to attract a crowd. The original message gets diluted, distorted, or completely replaced. South Park is warning that the price of popularity is often authenticity. If you water down your message to fill the room, you might fill the room with people who have no idea what you actually stand for. And those people will decide what your movement is about, whether you like it or not. The next time you see a cause get co-opted, a movement get hijacked, or a message get lost in translation, remember the boys standing on stage at a rally to free a baby killer, wondering how they got there. They got there one compromise at a time. Let us talk about an episode from Season 2 that does not get discussed enough. Season 2, Episode 14. Chef Aid. It aired on October 7th, 1998. And it is, beneath its goofy exterior, one of the sharpest episodes about the music industry and intellectual property that the show ever produced. Chef discovers that a hit song by Alanis Morissette uses a melody he wrote 20 years earlier. He has witnesses, he has proof. The song is clearly his, so he does what any reasonable person would do. He goes to the record company and asks for credit and compensation. The record company, represented by a terrifyingly powerful executive, does not just refuse. They sue Chef. They take an artist who had his work stolen from him and turn him into the defendant. The company has better lawyers, more money, and more institutional power. They bankrupt Chef. They destroy his reputation. They use the legal system not to find justice, but to crush a person who dared to challenge their authority. The town rallies around Chef. They throw a benefit concert. Famous musicians show up. Eventually, Chef wins, but the victory is bittersweet, because the episode makes it clear that most people in Chef's situation would not have an entire town willing to fight for them. Most people who get steamrolled by institutional power stay steamrolled. The lesson here is about the gap between justice and the legal system. Those are not the same thing. The legal system is a tool, and like all tools, it serves whoever has the resources to use it most effectively. Chef was right, his claim was legitimate. He was the victim of theft. But being right and being able to prove it in a system designed to favor the powerful are two completely different things. South Park delivered this lesson in 1998, and it has only become more relevant. The music industry, the tech industry, the housing market, healthcare, everywhere you look, there are systems where the rules technically exist to protect everyone, but functionally protect the people with the most money. Knowing your rights is important. But South Park reminds us that rights mean nothing without the resources to enforce them. And the people who benefit most from the system are the same people who get to define how it works. There's also an episode that I keep coming back to every time I think about what it means to actually understand someone else's perspective. Season 11, Episode 1. With apologies to Jesse Jackson, it aired on March 7th, 2007. And despite being one of the most controversial episodes the show ever produced, it contains one of the most important lessons about empathy that I've ever encountered in any medium. The premise is incendiary. Randy Marsh appears on Wheel of Fortune. The category is people who annoy you. The letters on the board spell out N_GGERS. Randy guesses the racial slur. The answer was naggers. Randy instantly becomes the most hated man in America. Now, the obvious reading of this setup is that South Park is going for shock value, and it is, but the episode does something with that shock that elevates it far beyond a cheap laugh. Randy spends the rest of the episode trying to apologize. He goes on talk shows. He meets with Jesse Jackson. He does everything the apology playbook tells him to do. And none of it works. The Black community is not interested in his apology tour. Randy cannot understand why. He said sorry, he did the thing. Why is he not forgiven? Meanwhile, there is a B-plot involving a man with dwarfism who is constantly mocked and harassed. Cartman makes fun of this man relentlessly. The man eventually confronts Cartman and demands that legislation be passed banning jokes about people with dwarfism. Cartman, of course, refuses to stop. The two plots converge on a single point, and it is devastating. Randy goes to the man with dwarfism for advice. He asks how to make things right, and the man tells him something that Randy and most people do not want to hear. He says that Randy will never understand what it feels like. He will never know the experience of being on the receiving end of that word, of carrying the weight of its history, of having it define how the world sees you before you even open your mouth. And the sooner Randy accepts that he will never fully understand, the sooner he can stop performing understanding and start actually listening. That is the lesson. You do not have to understand someone else's pain to respect it. In fact, insisting that you understand, performing empathy you do not actually feel can be more offensive than the original harm. Sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is admit that you do not get it, that you cannot get it, and then shut up and listen. Randy's apology tour fails because he keeps centering himself. He keeps making it about his discomfort, his guilt, his need for forgiveness. The people he hurt do not owe him closure. They do not owe him an opportunity to feel better about himself. And every apology that is secretly a request for absolution is not really an apology at all. This episode aired in 2007, and it remains one of the most thoughtful examinations of racial insensitivity, performative allyship, and the limits of empathy that American television has ever produced. South Park delivered it using a Wheel of Fortune puzzle and a man with dwarfism, because that is what South Park does. It takes the most uncomfortable possible setup and refuses to let you look away from the truth hiding inside it. There's one more. I promise this is the last one. And I saved it because it is the one that I think about most often in my own life. Season 7, Episode 5, Fat Butt and Pancake Head. It aired on April 16th, 2003, and on the surface, it is a ridiculous Cartman episode about him putting Jennifer Lopez makeup on his hand and claiming his hand is a real person. His hand, which he calls Jennifer Lopez, starts recording hit songs, gets a record deal, and even begins a romantic relationship with the real Ben Affleck. The episode is absurd. It's meant to be absurd. But underneath the absurdity is a question that South Park keeps returning to across its entire run. At what point does a performance become the performer? Cartman insists his hand is not him. He argues that Jennifer Lopez is a separate entity with her own thoughts, desires, and personality. The other boys are convinced it is a scam. Kyle is certain Cartman is doing this on purpose to manipulate people. But as the episode progresses, the line between Cartman and his hand puppet gets blurrier and blurrier. Does Cartman believe his own performance? Is he lying? Does the distinction even matter? The episode never gives a definitive answer, and that ambiguity is the point, because this is what South Park keeps showing us about human nature. People create personas, they build identities, they perform versions of themselves so consistently and for so long that the performance and the person merge. At some point, the mask becomes the face, and asking, who is the real version, stops being a meaningful question because there is no clean separation anymore. Think about how many people you know who started performing confidence and eventually became confident. How many people adopted an online persona and slowly became that persona in real life? How many people pretended to be okay for so long that they forgot they were pretending? Cartman's hand puppet is South Park's way of asking whether identity is something you are or something you do. And the uncomfortable answer is probably both. You are the performance and the performer simultaneously. The mask and the face are the same thing. And the sooner you make peace with that, the sooner you can start being intentional about which version of yourself you're building. Because if you are going to spend your whole life performing a version of yourself anyway, you might as well make it a version you actually want to be. Okay, now I am truly done. For real this time. If you are still here, still listening, still somewhere between consciousness and sleep, I want to thank you. Not the generic kind of thanks, the real kind. You gave your time to this. You sat with these ideas. You let a cartoon about crude children make you think about revenge and greed and faith and loss and identity and everything in between. South Park does not care if you like it. It never has. It does not need your approval. It just keeps showing up week after week, season after season, saying the things that nobody else will say and wrapping them in fart jokes so they go down easier. That is the final lesson. Honestly, the truth does not need to be pretty. It does not need to be polished. It does not need to come from an approved source, in an approved format with an approved tone. The truth just needs to be true. And if it takes a bunch of construction paper cutouts to deliver it, then so be it. Subscribe, share this, tell someone about it, or just close your eyes and let it all settle in. And one last thing before I go. If this video helped you fall asleep, that is great. But if it kept you awake because you were too busy thinking, that might be even better. Because thinking is the whole point. It has always been the whole point. 4 kids from Colorado have been trying to get you to think for yourself since before some of you were born. The least you can do is try. Good night. I will see you in the next one. Actually, hold on. I lied. I said I was done, and I am not done. There are 2 more episodes I have to talk about. If I leave these out, I am going to regret it, so bear with me. We are in the home stretch. Season 14, Episode 2. The Tale of Scrody McBoogerballs. It aired on March 24th, 2010. And it is about something that every creative person, every writer, every artist, every musician needs to hear. It is about the gap between what you intend to create and what the audience decides you created. The boys read The Catcher in the Rye after learning it was once a banned book. They expect it to be shocking and offensive. Instead, they find it boring and tame. So they decide to write the most offensive book ever created. They call it The Tale of Scrody McBoogerballs, and it is so violently disgusting that every person who reads it vomits, every single one. The book is repulsive by design, but here is where the episode gets interesting. The literary world discovers the book. Critics read it, and instead of being offended, they start finding deep meaning in it. They declare the book a masterpiece. They write essays about its symbolism. They argue about its political subtext. One critic claims it is a commentary on immigration. Another says it is about the decline of American values. The interpretations pile up, each one more elaborate and confident than the last. The boys are stunned. They did not put any meaning into the book. There is no symbolism, there is no subtext. It is literally just the most disgusting thing they could think of, committed to paper. Every interpretation the critics are finding is completely invented by the critics themselves. The meaning is not in the book, the meaning is in the audience. But when the boys try to tell everyone that the book has no deeper meaning, nobody listens. The audience has already decided what the book is about. The creator's intent is irrelevant. Once a piece of art enters the world, it stops belonging to the person who made it. It belongs to everyone who consumes it, and they will find whatever meaning they need to find, regardless of what the creator intended. This is a lesson that South Park itself has experienced firsthand, over and over again. People read political allegories into episodes that were just meant to be funny. They find conservative or liberal agendas in episodes that were attacking both sides equally. They construct elaborate theories about the show's ideology based on evidence that Trey Parker and Matt Stone did not intentionally plant. The lesson here is that the artist does not control the art, not once it is released. You can pour specific meaning into something, and the audience can miss it entirely. You can create something meaningless, and the audience can fill it with more significance than you ever imagined. This is not a flaw in the creative process. It is the creative process. Art is a collaboration between the creator and the consumer, whether either party realizes it or not. For creators, this is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it means your work will have a life beyond your intentions. Terrifying because it means you cannot control how your work is received, used, interpreted, or misinterpreted. The best you can do is create honestly and then let go. For audiences, the lesson is equally important. The meaning you find in something is yours. It belongs to you. But never mistake your interpretation for the creator's intent. They might not have meant what you think they meant, and that is okay. The value you extracted is real even if it was not intentionally placed. And finally, the absolute last one, I promise on everything. Season 7, Episode 11, Casa Bonita. It aired on November 12th, 2003. And it is, according to many fans and critics, the funniest episode the show ever produced. But it also contains a lesson about desperation and what happens when you want something so badly that you lose all perspective. The setup is perfect. Kyle is having a birthday party at Casa Bonita, the real Mexican restaurant and entertainment complex in the Denver suburb of Lakewood. Casa Bonita is an actual place. It has cliff divers, arcades, puppet shows, a haunted cave, and all-you-can-eat sopapillas. It is basically Disneyland inside a restaurant, and Cartman is absolutely obsessed with it. The problem is, Kyle does not want to invite Cartman. Obviously, they are not friends. Cartman is terrible to Kyle on a daily basis. Kyle would rather invite literally anyone else. And he does. He invites Butters instead. Cartman is devastated. Not because he cares about Kyle's friendship, because he wants to go to Casa Bonita. That is it. He does not care about the birthday. He does not care about Kyle. He just wants those cliff divers and those sopapillas. And he will do anything to get them. What follows is Cartman at his most manic and manipulative. He convinces Butters that a meteor is about to destroy the Earth, and that the only safe place is a bomb shelter, which is actually just a garbage dump Cartman has disguised. Butters believes him and hides in the dump for days, terrified, eating canned food and waiting for the apocalypse. Meanwhile, the entire town searches for Butters, who has been reported missing. Kyle postpones his birthday party because everyone is worried about Butters. The search intensifies, police get involved. Butters' parents are frantic, and Cartman, who knows exactly where Butters is, says nothing. Because if Butters is found, Butters goes to the party, and Cartman does not get to go to Casa Bonita. The situation escalates to absurd proportions. Cartman essentially imprisons a child in a garbage dump, lets an entire town believe he is dead or kidnapped, watches parents weep and police mobilize, all because he wants to eat sopapillas and watch cliff divers. The cost-benefit analysis in Cartman's brain is so warped that the suffering of an entire community registers as an acceptable trade for a restaurant visit. Eventually, Butters is found. Kyle reluctantly lets Cartman come to Casa Bonita. And Cartman does get his moment. He sees the cliff divers. He eats the food. He is in paradise. And then the police arrest him. The lesson is about what desire does to your moral compass when you stop checking it. Cartman wanted something. That is not unusual. Everyone wants things. But Cartman wanted it so badly that every other consideration, the suffering of others, the fear of consequences, basic human decency, became invisible. His desire did not just overpower his morality. It replaced his morality entirely. And this is not something that only happens to fictional sociopaths. Think about the times in your life when you wanted something so desperately that you justified behavior you would normally never consider. Maybe you lied to get a job. Maybe you manipulated someone to maintain a relationship. Maybe you cut corners at someone else's expense because the prize seemed worth it. In those moments, you were Cartman. We all have been Cartman at one point or another. The difference between a momentary lapse and a character flaw is whether you catch yourself or whether you let the desire keep driving. South Park shows us Cartman's version because it is the extreme, the exaggerated endpoint of what unchecked desire looks like. And it is meant to be a mirror, not a portrait. The lesson is not that Cartman is uniquely broken. The lesson is that the instinct he follows to its horrifying conclusion exists in all of us. The question is whether you notice it before you end up sitting in the back of a police car, wondering how a sopapilla became worth more to you than another person's safety. One more thing, I was not going to include this one, but it keeps nagging at me. And when something nags at you, you should listen. Season 16, Episode 12. A Nightmare on FaceTime. It aired on October 24th, 2012. And on the surface, it is a Halloween episode where Randy Marsh buys a Blockbuster video store and slowly goes insane in it, channeling The Shining while the rest of the world has moved on to streaming. Randy buys the store for $10,000 because he thinks he's getting a bargain. He imagines customers flooding through the doors, renting armfuls of DVDs, making him rich. Sharon and Stan try to tell him that nobody rents physical media anymore. Streaming exists. The world has changed. Blockbuster is dead. But Randy refuses to listen. He sets up the store. He stocks the shelves. He waits for customers. Nobody comes. He asks Shelley how many copies of Meet the Fockers they have. She tells him they still have 6, meaning nobody has rented a single one. Randy starts talking to ghosts, literal ghosts of blockbuster past. Customers from decades ago who shimmer in and out of the aisles asking for Turner and Hooch. Stan watches his father deteriorate from a distance. He tells Sharon that something is wrong with Randy. And Sharon agrees, but neither of them can reach him. Randy is too invested. He spent money, he made a commitment, and admitting that the commitment was wrong feels worse than watching it fail. This is the sunk cost fallacy brought to life. Randy would rather go insane in an empty blockbuster than admit he made a bad investment. The $10,000 is gone. It was gone the moment he spent it. No amount of waiting, hoping, or talking to ghosts will bring customers into a store that sells a product the world no longer needs. But letting go of that money means acknowledging a mistake. And for Randy, that acknowledgement is more painful than the loss itself. How many times have you stayed in a situation long past the point of no return? A job that was clearly going nowhere, a relationship that had been over for months, a project that was never going to work, a belief you held on to because changing your mind felt like admitting defeat. Every day you spent in that situation after recognizing it was done was a day you spent in Randy's blockbuster, talking to ghosts, waiting for customers who were never coming, defending an investment that had already failed. The world moves on, technology changes, relationships evolve, careers shift, and the people who thrive are not the ones who made the best initial decisions. They are the ones who recognized their bad decisions fastest and pivoted without ego. Randy could have cut his losses, sold whatever inventory he could, and moved on. Instead, he chose madness because madness felt more dignified than admitting he was wrong. The lesson is simple, but almost everyone struggles with it. The money is gone, the time is gone, the effort is gone. You cannot get any of it back by continuing to invest in something that is not working. The only thing you can control is what you do next. And the smartest thing you can do next is stop sinking and start swimming. Let the blockbuster go. Whatever your personal blockbuster is, the thing you are clinging to because giving it up feels like failure, let it go. The ghosts are not going to rent anything. The customers are not coming. It is time to walk out, turn off the lights, and build something new. And I want to leave you with one final thought about why South Park endures, why it has survived 28 seasons when most shows are lucky to get 5. Why it secured a $1.5 billion deal in 2025 when the entire television industry is contracting. Why, after nearly 3 decades, it is still relevant, still sharp, still making people think. It is because the show has never been about the specific topics it covers. It has never been about Scientology or World of Warcraft or the presidential election or whatever controversy is trending that week. Those are just the delivery vehicles. The show has always been about the same 4 or 5 things, repeated in infinite variations across 338 episodes. It is about thinking for yourself instead of letting the crowd think for you. It is about treating people as individuals instead of categories. It is about the gap between what people say and what people do. It is about the absurdity of adults who are less wise than children. And it is about the stubborn, messy, beautiful reality that life does not come with clean answers, and anyone who tells you it does is selling something. Those themes do not expire. Technology changes, politics shift, culture evolves. But the need to think for yourself, to question authority, to call out hypocrisy, to protect free expression, to love the people around you before they are gone, those needs are permanent. They are as true in 2026 as they were in 1997. They will be true in 2050. They will be true forever. South Park keeps working because it keeps telling the same fundamental truths in new packaging. And as long as humans keep being human, those truths will keep needing to be told. If you take nothing else from tonight, take this. The world is noisy. Everyone has an opinion. Every platform is trying to tell you what to think, what to buy, what to be angry about, and what to be afraid of. But somewhere underneath all that noise, there is a quiet voice that knows the difference between what is true and what is performance. That voice is yours. And it has always been yours. South Park has been trying to amplify that voice for almost 30 years. Not by telling you what to think, by showing you what happens when you stop thinking entirely. Trust your own voice. Question everything, including this video, especially this video. Because the moment you start accepting anything uncritically, even advice delivered by a narrator talking about a cartoon, you have become exactly the kind of person South Park has been making fun of since 1997. Think for yourself. That is the lesson. It has always been the lesson, and it will always be the lesson. All right, that is everything. Every lesson I wanted to share. Every episode I wanted to walk through. Every observation I wanted to leave you with. We went from underpants gnomes to Casa Bonita, from Satan's love life to Stan's cynicism, from a rigged attractiveness list to a Wheel of Fortune disaster. 20 plus episodes, nearly 30 years of a show that has never once apologized for being exactly what it is. South Park is not for everyone. It was never designed to be for everyone. It is loud, crude, offensive, and relentless. But for the people who are willing to look past the surface, past the profanity and the bodily fluids and the deliberate provocation, there is something extraordinary underneath. There is a show that takes the human condition seriously precisely because it refuses to take anything else seriously. A show that has earned the right to deliver life lessons because it has never once pretended to be a role model. Trey Parker once said in an interview that the whole point of South Park is to make you laugh at things that scare you.